We're back. This time, guys, we're back with incredible brand. This one means a lot to me. It's got a lot of history. And not only that, I grew up with this brand in the family. It's Alfa Romeo today, guys. So let me break it down for you into 3 points of what makes Alfa Romeo so desirable for all of us. I think number one, it's highly emotive. It's an emotional brand. You see that in all Alfa Romeos. Second is basically the timeless looks that these cars give off. It looks as good today as it's always looked before in the past, and it will continue to look great. And the third and final point is cultural authenticity. Now, what do I mean by cultural authenticity? Well, we all know that Italians look great no matter what time of the day. And it's that feeling that they capture in their cars. The car looks great at any time of the day, in any situation. It's on the mark, on point. So with all those points considered, let's move into my 3 favorite Alfa Romeos. And the first one is right here on my screen, the Alfa Romeo Giulietta. So looking at this car, the feeling I get, first of all, mainly, is this achingly attractive piece of automotive machinery. My particular attraction to this car is I grew up with it. It's the first car we had in the family when I was growing up, and it still gives me goosebumps today when I think about it, when I see one on the road. Now, if we start at the front of the car, this, again, contains so many strong Italian values as well as specifically Alfa Romeo values. Now, we look at that grille is Alfa through and through. Companies would give their, whatever they have to have a logo or a front grille as unique and as strong as Alfa's. And then what we also see oftentimes on Alfas is what we call the baffi, or they call the baffi, or Italians call the baffis. Now, the baffi is actually a mustache, and we see that oftentimes on the front of a Alfa Romeo. They're the 2 horizontal air intakes on the front, either side of the grille. And then obviously the strip of chrome in the front, which sort of balances it off. But sometimes these cars even look better without the front bumpers on them or the rear bumpers, the chrome bumpers. A lot of times when they restore them, they try to leave those off. And it sort of cleans up the front end a little bit. And it's simplicity. I mean, you start there at the front, you go through that very Italian front, very Alfa Romeo front, and you start to come to a side view, which for me, basically, it's about as laid back as you would want a GT design to be even today. How is it that they achieved that laid back GT look? Well, just observe the highlight that comes off the front headlamp, goes through the fender, through the door area, off the quarter light and down towards the rear fender. It's got a slight bow to it, slight bit of tension, but you really, really get that laid back GT look with that line. Look at that rear windscreen on the Sprint, on the 2+2 here. You see how it wraps around from the C-pillar up, over, and again down onto the other side. That is a magnificent piece of surfacing, but it's just so pure. The back end of this car doesn't need much more than you're seeing here. And that's what I've always said. A lot of the times designs look like they're trying too hard. This is just an extension of volumes. Basically, nothing complicated. You can see how the rear fenders just come to sort of a vertical, upright sort of area that provides the space for the taillights. Very beautiful, very elegantly treated in that area. And then the volume of the greenhouse just continually flowing back down and then into the bumper area. Very clean, very beautiful, very sensual, not trying hard at all, but just manages to make it a masterpiece. In conclusion, I think what I can say is that this innovative little coupe became the benchmark, the forerunner for all coupes in the future. For that reason, and as well as sprinkling in a little bit of the nostalgicness of it, having grown up with it in the past, I think that's why it deserves absolutely a place on my top 3 Alfa Romeos. Moving on to my second choice, it's the Alfa Romeo 1750 GTV, or as it's also known, GT Veloce. The reason why I've chosen this car is because I fell in love with my 7th grade English teacher. She had one, and I begged her to let me wash her car every Friday evening after school. But basically it was a way of me falling in love deeper with a car that already the owner was, very attractive. This car allowed me to somehow imagine a similar kind of relationship with the vehicle itself. It's really, for me, one of the, not only the runaway models from Alfa Romeo, but it's the runway model of Alfa Romeo still for me. Then they've treated the front end very simply. They have just 4 headlights in the front, each one individual. Incredible, difficult styling around the headlights to try to make it look, more than it is. It's performance and function and beauty all blended into one. Very recognizable as Alfa Romeo. Then you look at the bonnet area, the fender, how it integrates into the hood itself. There's this tension involved in there. It's not soft at all. It's athletic. If you look at it from a sort of a 3/4 rear view, you see that connectedness of the design from the front fenders, the way they roll in to the bonnet, to the hood area, and that carries through into the rear fenders, how it also does the same thing, has the same design language, very cohesive. That windscreen wraps around, especially as you get to the ends, which today is very difficult to do because of the glass tech and glass safety. But you come around the side, you have very thin A-pillars, which I love, and then all that just blends into the most stunning greenhouses that I know of even today. It's just beautiful. Very thin B pillars, very thin C pillars, wrap around rear glass on the windscreen in the back. If you can keep it to a color that just shows it off, Italian style, lovely car to look at, lovely. Moving on to my third and final car, and might I add, the most beautiful car ever in the world. This is the Alfa Romeo 33 Stradale.
È uno splendore.
There were only 18 of these cars made. Not many of them exist anymore. It's built or actually launched in 1967. And the body, more than anything, was the most stunning thing on this car. It has a very interesting history because as it was hand built, and there were very few of them made, each car got successively better. This car really embodies the philosophy of love at first sight. This is what people love when they look at industrial objects. They get a feeling of natural beauty. And this car is, I wouldn't say he designed it to be beautiful. He designed it to be effective. It's like I said, it's a race car. But look how pure and how beautiful things that are designed for purpose can look in reality. So starting at the front, what you have is an atypical Alfa Romeo look to the front. Let's look at the grille. The grille is not really what we consider when we look at an Alfa Romeo grille. Right off the bat, you have to stare at it for a little moment. Because it's so low down, it's kind of minimal. It's taken away a few of the elements that make an Alfa Romeo grille an Alfa Romeo grille. The shape, the overall shape or the outline of it is there. It's placed right in the middle of where a major intake or one of the most important intakes are on a vehicle, right there in dead center. Very similar to the Maserati MC12, by the way, where it just has a floating trident, the Neptune's trident, hanging there in the middle. But then you look at these very, very sensual headlight designs, very much like the E-Type, kind of flirting when they look at you. They've got this sort of, twinkly look to them. You could almost say they're too big for the car, but who's ever said that somebody's eyes are too big? They kind of look nicer the bigger they are. You've got those beautiful, beautiful curves over the front fenders that drop down into a bonnet area that is as low as they can get it. So what they've done is been able to move the center line of the bonnet of the hood very low to give the driver a very, very great forward view. Now, the way they've broken up the fender just behind the rear wheel, where you have two air extractors divided by a horizontal piece of surfacing, it doesn't sit well with me, because I would have preferred perhaps to see that as one large element rather than two broken up elements. It doesn't make sense to break something up when it doesn't need to be broken up. The two round taillights in the back, as appropriate as they seem, and as simple as you would need taillights on the back to be on a race car, they seem to be floating a little bit in space. I would try to give more emphasis, as they've done to the front headlights, where you have a bit of detail going on, chrome work and things like that, to make them look, you know, almost happy and pouting at the same time. On the rear, they almost come across, to me at least, as an afterthought. Something to have made the rear taillights fill out the back end of the car a little bit more, and to look a little bit less lost within that rear area there. Okay, that aside, beautiful vent on the top deck of the rear there. It's got the air coming out, very, very easily done. Perhaps a little bit too square, too rectangular, because of this car, let's face it, it's all about curves. The overall proportions of the vehicle are fantastic. Again, it's right up there with the most beautiful car in the world. I keep saying that, but it is. And every time I look at this car, I realize I probably should not look at it so long, because it's a bit too emotional. You know, Alfa is one of those brands that everybody's going to have their own favorites for it. And I can't argue with anybody who actually loves the brand Alfa Romeo. But for me personally, those three cars, 50s, 60s, early 70s, is definitely the high point of Alfa Romeo's design, I think. And these three cars really represent my taste in Alfa Romeos. So let me know in the comments below, what are your favorite three Alfa Romeos? I love reading your comments, because when I see what your favorite three are, I start to think again, and it's always interesting to see different viewpoints and opinions. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the future.